Hello, Autobots, Maximals, Decepticons, Teracons, and ComicCons. I'm Natanis Likens, and today we are going to be talking about something that many of us have enjoyed for several years. I have personally enjoyed it since childhood, and that is Transformers. Specifically, the Transformers movie series and Rise of the Beast. Now, before we really get started on this, there's a few things I want to go over. First off, we're not going to be talking about Easter eggs from the trailers or any hidden details. I'm going to leave stuff like that to Erik Voss of New Rockstars. Great content creator, great channel. I highly suggest it if you're looking for Easter eggs in your favorite movies. Now, some of the things that I would like to talk about are the Maximals. We are getting the Maximals in this, though it is a little bit odd, the choice of characters that they are using. Let's talk about that for a split second. Okay, so the original characters are Optimus Primal. If you've seen either one of the trailers, you know he's there. Cheetor. Again, if you've seen either one of the trailers, you know he's there. Rhinox as well. Those are the primary three of the originals, and then you've also got Rat Trap, who is oddly missing from the trailers and from what I know of the lineup from other video breakdowns that I've seen. He's not even in the lineup, so I don't know why they would leave out Rat Trap. He is one of the originals, so that's kind of interesting that they left him out. Another one that is debatable on if he really is a Maximal is Dinobot. If you're familiar with the series, you know why I say it's debatable. He was a Predicon that joined the Maximals in order to take over the Maximals, and then as the story progressed, he became more and more of a good guy, though there was always this edge about him that he was really a bad guy, just trying to fool them. He's not there either. Now, we do get a scene of Air Razor. I find this odd because she is not one of the originals. And if memory serves correctly, she is the fourth or fifth new Maximal or I forgot Predacons. Nice. She is the fourth or fifth new Predacon that gets introduced. So I'm not really sure why Air Razor and Rat Trap gets cut. I have a theory on that, but as I don't want to run off the audience, we are not going to say why. So yeah, we get Air Razor, and rumor has it on Air Razor is she is going to die in this upcoming movie. Again, I don't know why they introduced her. Her first appearance is episode 15 of season 1, and some of the new ones that we get beforehand, and she may actually be the third or fourth new one. I can't really remember because I know a bunch of Predacons actually get added in between. I don't remember which all ones. Like I know we get Black Arachnia. She is a Predacon throughout, I believe, the first 4 seasons, maybe, or 3 seasons. She does end up switching sides. And then we also get Tigertron and maybe a couple of others. I don't really remember. It's been a few years since I've seen any of that. And I barely did any research on this before I started the video, so we're not going to worry about that. But yeah, Air Razor, again, I don't know why they're introducing her over Rat Trap because she was not a main character until she was introduced. So you got at least 14 episodes there that start off the series that she's not present. So, and then later on, she is effectively destroyed. Um, yeah, if you know the story, you know what I'm talking about there. So that's enough about the Maximals. For now, we do have something else to talk about with the Maximals. However, I wanted this to lead straight into talking about some of the Autobots depicted. And in the trailers, we definitely see Bumblebee's making a return, Optimus Prime, of course. You have to have Optimus Prime in a Transformers movie. We also get Mirage for the first time ever. And then we get Wheeljack and RC. which is interesting, and that's going to tie in with the extra thing that I have to say about the Maximals, and then tie into what I have to say about the timeline of this movie at the end. Reason being is that RC was depicted in the second movie, Revenge of the Fallen, and she was destroyed. Wheeljack was depicted in the third movie, Dark of the Moon, and was also destroyed. So that's interesting that two characters that are supposedly dead are back. I have a theory on that. We'll get to that later on in the video. Next up, because it is the Maximals, if you aren't aware, the Maximals have only ever appeared in things that have to do with time travel. So that's a little bit interesting that we're getting the Maximals in there, and the fact that, they usually deal with time travel makes this movie very interesting as far as my speculation on when this movie takes place. Um, we aren't going to talk about beast machines. It does not exist. Now then, let's get on to my breakdown of the scenes that we have been shown in the first trailer. I don't have any of the images cut out from the second trailer because there are like 2 or 3 scenes in there that I'm just like, now wait a minute, because there is something that seems off. And if you've seen both of the trailers that have been released, there is one thing I want to point out. In both trailers, there is one sequence that is doubled up on. You see it twice in the trailer. It's not the same scene, it's 2 different scenes, but in both trailers, you see one of those scenes twice in it, at the beginning, and in the first trailer, it's at the end of it. In the second trailer, it's about 2/3 of the way through the trailer, roughly speaking. So that's interesting. And the 2 scenes in the second trailer that I'm really unsure about is we see a group of what appears to be army members in the desert. And then we also see what I believe is Optimus Prime inside of a giant Cybertronian machine. I'm not really sure what either one of those scenes are. I do have a feeling that Optimus inside the giant machine is towards the end of the movie, like it's part of the closing act. As far as the army people inside the desert, or in the desert, however you want to phrase that, I don't really know. That's a scene that kind of struck me as odd. Like, I'm not really sure why that's there. I have a theory on that, but yeah, let's just get into it. So, the main thing I want to talk about is the sequence of events, what the timeline of the movie looks like to be to me after watching both trailers multiple times. I kind of think I know what the timeline of events is going to be. So, starting off, we're probably going to get this shot of New York City very early on in the film. Probably the opening sequence. So, they usually do this, have like something where you're seeing an overview of an area and you know that the events are going to be taking place here. This is definitely New York. In fact, right there in front is the Empire State Building. So I believe. I've looked it up like 30 times and I'm pretty sure that's what this building is. The reason I say that is one of the other Easter egg videos that I watched said this was a very different building, and it didn't make sense to me, so I started looking it up, and apparently this is the Empire State Building, but I'm not 100% sure on that because there are some odd things that I have noticed. Let's just move on from there. So we get that shot. That's probably the opening. Up next, we get a sequence in which I assume Bumblebee and Optimus Prime will be speaking. About what, I don't know. I know in the second trailer there is what appears to be a observation area where they are observing the incoming meteors that are seen in one of the other scenes. So I got a feeling they are discussing that they know something is coming and they're going to go out and meet it. Something to that avail, or they're discussing battle tactics or talking about something they got to find. Either way, this is probably going to be the next thing that we see. And then up next, we do get these three objects crashing into the river there. I forgot the name of the river, to be perfectly honest. The video that I watched said that this is most likely the Teracons arriving to Earth. Um, I half believe that and half don't. I'm not 100% sure on this. We do have three more Autobots that show up, so this could potentially be those three. Um, not 100% sure on that. However, this is probably the next thing we'll see is them crashing onto Earth. Up next, we get a shot of the Brooklyn Bridge. Now, I'm not exactly sure when this sequence takes place, as the breakdown trailer that I watched showed that the vehicles on the left side of the screen are cop cars. Now, as many times as I've played this sequence back, their lights are not flashing blue and red. I don't believe this is the chase scene. I have no proof of that, but beyond the fact that the cop cars' lights are not flashing between red and blue. So I think this is a little bit earlier than that. In fact, I think this actually leads into Optimus driving across the bridge. Most likely, he is going off to either find something or confront the Teracons. Now, what I mean by find something is if you're familiar with all of the other movies, there's usually something on Earth that the humans have or know how to find that the Autobots and Decepticons don't really know where it is or how to get it, which makes literally no sense to me whatsoever. That's beside the point. However, that's pretty much in every single movie is they're after something, the humans have it, or the humans know where to find it, or have some kind of link to it, and they lead the Autobots to it, or the Decepticons, whichever it is. So yeah, I do believe this is Optimus going off to either find said item or meet up and confront the Terracons. Most likely to confront the Terracons as they've just come to Earth. Then we get this sequence that looks like Optimus has lost his fight against Scourge. Um, Scourge in this particular movie is kind of an odd mix. One of the breakdown trailers said that he is from one of the cartoons. However, that version of Scourge was also based off of Nemesis Prime. So I don't really like that. However, I'm not the one that made the movie, so anyway, we see Bumblebee get impaled, and during this sequence, you can clearly see that Bumblebee goes limp. There is a rumor going around that Bumblebee is going to die in this movie, and based on what I've seen throughout the trailers, I think this is going to happen very, very early before we even meet the main humans in this movie. Most likely. So yeah, Bumblebee is going to die and be gone pretty much the entire movie. You'll see why as we go along. Okay, so that happens, and then Optimus Prime probably goes back to their base of operations and transforms. Now, the breakdown video that I watched stated that this is the same location. I do agree. However, he said it was the same location because the inside of it looks exactly like the inside of the one we see Bumblebee in. However, I do want to draw your attention to the roof line right there on the left side of the screen, right near Optimus Prime. That is the actual roof line of a building, so we are outside of the building. We are not inside of it. Most likely, Optimus Prime is coming back to lick his wounds, and Bumblebee is no longer with him. Now, at the same time, some other stuff is going on and kind of intermix. I think before he actually goes out is when we get the first shots of Mirage. And this is one of the earliest shots of Mirage we are going to see. He is a Porsche 911, and yeah, he's sitting there waiting on our new human interaction character, the one that humanizes and represents us in interacting with the Cybertronians. This whole sequence here is very interesting to me because it very well mimics, to some degree, Sam's first interaction with Bumblebee in the 2007 Transformers movie, the original movie, the one that kicked off this entire series. We'll get to that in a second. But yeah, so Noah gets inside, and he does a few things here that really echoes how Sam interacted with Bumblebee for the first time. Now, one thing I will point out here is the action scene here is not of the type of person that's like, I'm in my brand new car, and considering this car is in a parking lot, or a parking garage more correctly, and somebody had stated that he is, somebody that's former military, he's trying to take care of his brother and sister, so the idea of him stealing is not very, it's not very likely. I'm on the opposite end here. I feel like he has been tasked with stealing something and being told that he has a ride waiting for him in the parking garage. I do not know if that is the truth. Don't hold me to the actual plot. We are just talking about specifically the timeline of events. So at somewhere in the mix of Bumblebee dying and Optimus finding Scourge and Noah getting inside of Mirage and going on the police chase, I don't know how it's going to be intermixed. So a lot of this is going to happen around the same time. I don't know if we're going to get the police chase first, then Optimus goes off to meet Scourge, or Scourge and Optimus face off, and then we get Noah. I'm thinking Noah's going to come afterwards because his connection with Mirage is the new one that we're supposed to be putting our feet in. He's supposed to be our new connection to the Transformers, the Autobots. And during this sequence, here's a good example of mimicking exactly how Sam. If you remember in the original movie, Sam brushes away the dirt on the steering wheel to reveal the Autobot logo. In this sequence, it's very prominent. We know it's an Autobot. We don't have anything to worry about. But yeah, that's going to be part of this sequence. And then as soon as he gets in, Mirage is going to shift into gear and start driving him off, which then leads directly into the police chase. Now, as far as these sequences, I don't know which one's going to happen in what order. This looks to be very early in the chase, as then we get this one, which actually probably happens before that. I put these out of sequence. It's my fault. So he's panicking. He doesn't know what's going on. Most likely, this is one of the first interactions between the two that we are going to see. Then we'll get the police chase going. Now, as far as when this scene takes place in comparison to this one, here we go. Got to make sure I'm clicking the right ones. We can clearly see that he is still panicking. He's trying to tell the police that he is not actually in control of the vehicle. So I do believe that these sequences are going to be obviously fairly close together. I mean, we got a police chase going on in some of these scenes, and he's talking directly to a police officer, so we know it's all the same sequence. As far as the order, I don't know. I'm assuming that the peel out and fast turn around the curve is probably going to take place before he actually talks to the police officer in the opposing car. Anyway, then we get to the Brooklyn Bridge again, where we see them try, according to one of the videos that I watched, they try to pull a pit maneuver on Mirage. Based on what I've seen, that is not a pit maneuver. The police officer simply rams Mirage in the back. That's not how a pit maneuver works. So yes, that is going to happen about here. And then we get this really cool effect of Mirage using his ability to transform in order to flip himself around while driving very fast. It is really cool. Love that scene. Can't wait to see it in the movie. That's going to be like epic. And then soon after that, we get the sequence of him creating mirages. So that's what lets us know right off the bat that this is Mirage. We hadn't even learned his name yet, and I assume there's going to be some back and forth talking between him and Noah. Around that same time, we are also going to get Elena and her first interaction with RC. RC, again, being one of the ones that was destroyed in Revenge of the Fallen. Bear that in mind because it's probably going to be important at some point. I do think it's interesting that we do get RC in this, and we get an RC that's a lot more faithful to the original cartoon and comic version. So yes, I'm kind of thrilled about that. Based on the surroundings here, it is very similar to what we are going to see Noah in a few seconds. What little bit we know about the character is she works in some kind of archaeology museum, like cataloging stuff or researching stuff. Not really sure. I haven't seen the details on backstories for characters. So she's probably going to be our character that knows where to find what it is they're looking for. Very predictable. There's always one of those in every movie. Like, at least one human knows more than an Autobot. So, yeah, that's probably going to be very close around both the battle with Scourge and Noah on his police chase with Mirage. Again, I don't know what's going to happen in what order. I don't know if they're going to introduce Elena first or if they're going to introduce Noah first. Based on just the lighting, as far as day or night, I assume we're going to get Noah first because it does look to be a little bit brighter when he first meets Mirage, and then as the police chase goes on, night starts settling in. So I assume that's probably going to be happening first. Elena and RC's looks to be a lot darker, so it's probably about midnight by the time that this sequence happens. So I'm assuming this is going to happen after we see the epic police chase. Now then, this is one of the scenes I was talking about. In the first trailer, it is seen at the very beginning of the movie trailer, and then towards the end of it. There's only one reason I can think of why you would duplicate a scene. Again, we are going to save that for the end with my theory. But this is clearly them arriving to, I assume, what is the Autobot safe house. Notice here that Noah is not panicking, and he's also wearing different clothing. So I assume this is probably the next day. He's had a change of clothes, and there is speculation on what is inside his bag. I got a feeling what has actually happened here is he has packed his bag and they are getting ready to go on their epic trip. That is probably why he's got the backpack, as the backpack is seen very briefly in the previous scene. However, here it clearly looks like there's more in the backpack. Notice also the green jacket. So I'm assuming this is sometime later, the very next day, and he's packed his bags and he's ready to go. How much time has passed, I don't know, but we're probably about 1/4 of the way through the movie at this point. Then up next, we get this sequence here of the 4 Autobots and Noah and Elaine out on top of some ruins in Peru. Now, myself personally, I don't know that this is Peru. I'm going off of what was presented in somebody else's video. So again, I don't 100% know. Now, I think this is going to happen first because they arrive in Peru and we can see a city in the background. And we go to the very next scene. Um, we're going to enter the city and we're going to see a parade going on. And this parade has some foreshadowing. Unfortunately, I could not properly catch the parade sequence. They seem to have removed it since the last time I watched the trailer. That shows both a rhino and a cheetah float inside the parade. If you don't know, that's a technique called foreshadowing. They are foreshadowing the arrival of the Maximals. When exactly that is, I have a slight idea on, but I'm not 100% positive because there is one little oddity with a couple of scenes that we see a couple of the Maximals in, but we'll get to that in a minute. Anyway, they're in Peru now, and then they start driving off to whatever location they are going to. Now, I do think that this is going to happen before the road chasing that we get here. And the reason for that is that that seemed very peaceful, while as this is definitely a battle going on. I don't think they would go directly from a battle into a city that's having a parade with what is essentially foreshadowing of characters. So I think the foreshadowing in the parade is going to happen before this particular portion of the fighting between the Autobots and the Teracons. And in both of these sequences, with them walking up the ruins and this particular chase and battle on the road, notice again that Bumblebee is not present. Again, I want to reiterate, Bumblebee is going to be gone for a good chunk of this movie. The fact that he's not in any of these scenes afterwards kind of solidifies that, and I don't think we're going to see him again for the majority of this movie. And then again, we get a sequence of RC and Wheeljack. I'm not sure if the one with Mirage is going to happen before or after this. I'm assuming I've actually got these backwards, and we're going to see RC and Wheeljack dodging the missile, and then we're going to roll back to where Mirage is, because there is an explosion that happens during this particular sequence right here. It's not exactly right in this particular shot, as we do see Optimus falling back there in the background with what we assume is Scourge in the foreground, but there is an explosion that happens during this moment. So I do assume that potentially the other Terracon, whose name escapes my brain at the moment. I did not write it down on my note sheet, so yeah. So probably the chain of events here is that RC and Wheeljack dodge the incoming missile, and then we see the explosion with Mirage and Optimus Prime there in the background. Then our first shot of any of the Maximals. This is Airazor. And again, it's kind of odd that she is the first one we see. I do believe she is going to be the first one we see because if you can't spot it there, go watch the trailer. That is Optimus running up there on what is said to be a road. It does not look like a road to me. It looks more like a footpath, which would explain why he's possibly not in vehicle mode. Also, considering that he was battling Scourge during these sequences, it could be another reason why he is not in vehicle mode. However, we do see that Airazor is taking out the bridge in front of him. There is a little bit of speculation as to why she's taking out the bridge. I do think that this is because the Maximals are protecting whatever it is the Teracons are after, and thus also the Autobots. As of this moment in the movie, they don't know each other, which is very weird considering something that Primal does say in the voice lines that he is given during the sequences he's in. Anyway, we go from there, and most likely what this is going to lead to is all of the Autobots and Noah and Elena ending up inside the jungle. And thus we get this overview of the jungle potentially. However, I could see that this particular scene actually leads into them arriving at the ruins. So either way there, I'm not sure exactly where this is going to be, but it is going to happen around this same time. I mean, it's kind of obvious because we do know that he meets Primal in the jungle, but yeah, I'm not sure if this is going to happen before this scene or before our next one, which is this one. We are on the ground floor of the jungle, and I do believe this is going to lead directly to showing Noah, Elena at the riverside when suddenly Optimus Primal shows up. And this is going to be our first interaction verbally with any of the Maximals. And as you can see, I've got a few screenshots here of Optimus. I do want you to pay attention to the design of Optimus here. The breakdown trailer I said that I watched says that this is a brand new version of Optimus. And while there is some truth to that, I want you to pay attention to the actual style and look of Optimus. He definitely looks like an older model. The model does look better than some of the others, I will admit that. However, the way they did it is so subtle that you can tell that some of the things on him are older things that are no longer put into semi-trucks. So this is an older style Optimus. That is the look they are going for, while also updating the look. If that makes any sense. There's a lot of timey mix match things going on here. But yeah, we get this, and he confronts Primal, and this is where we get Primal talking about he's facing a new threat that is something he has never faced in either his past or his future. I do want you to pay attention to that phrasing there, his past or his future. As I said, the Maximals are usually involved in time travel stories, and it's very interesting to me that he says past and future. We'll get into that in a minute. Next up, we got Rhinox. Now, I'm not sure when this is actually going to take place either. We can clearly see that this is at night. However, if you look around him, it's also in the middle of some ruins. Now, there is another sequence that I have seen where we also see Cheetor fighting somebody in ruins. It is definitely a Terracon. This I know because we can see the color of his opponent's eyes, and all the Terracons have this kind of orange color to their eyes. Now, bear in mind, too, that there also is a sequence in the new trailer where I noticed that Shockwave is in there. I don't know why Shockwave is there, because that, to me, says that that's somewhere in the future, which is very odd. Point is, I'm not sure what's going on here. Potentially, this sequence with Rhinox and Cheetor, which definitely looks like it is the same sequence, is possibly a flashback as Primal is explaining his origins. Now, the fact that there are ruins around them kind of throws that off a little bit because they were clearly in the jungle earlier, and if this is a backstory, there wouldn't be ruins just yet. So the other possibility is that we meet them before we meet Rhinox and Cheetor actually before we meet Primal. However, I'm willing to bet this is after we meet Primal and before they have teamed up with Primal and the rest of the Autobots. My reasoning for that is it does look like they are protecting ruins, and as you will see in the final battle, it does appear like they are near some form of ruin. So potentially what's going on here is Rhinox and Cheetor are actually trying to stop the Teracons from entering the Cybertronian machine, ship. I have no idea what it is. I didn't actually take a screenshot of that one because there was an interesting point that I wanted to make about the final battle sequence. So we're going to pull this one up. If you don't know who that is on screen right now, that is Optimus Primal. This is a sequence in which he transforms. So yeah, there's going to be a little bit of backstory going on between these, and then we're going to get the final scene. We're about 1/4 of the way through the movie now. The breakdown trailer that I watched stated that there are 4 Autobots and Maximals missing from the sequence. They stated that Bumblebee is missing, Mirage is missing, Air Razor's missing, and Wheeljack is missing. Actually, that's not true. Look right there over my right shoulder. That is clearly a van door. Wheeljack is definitely involved in this final battle. So that leaves us with 3. Mirage, Bumblebee, who is dead, and Air Razor. I got a feeling Air Razor is very short-lived. Like we meet, if you watch this sequence back a few times, you'll notice that there's only one airborne enemy, and that was Nightbird, I believe is her name. We do not see Air Razor anywhere, so I think Air Razor by this point has already been destroyed. She was probably destroyed earlier when she was trying to block the road. We do have an actress playing her, and this is where the whole flashback comes in. So I assume during that flashback we are going to hear Air Razor talking a little bit more as Primal is explaining everything that is going on to Optimus. That would be my only reasoning for why they have an actress for a character that is very short-lived, is that there is some dialogue, possibly in a flashback. Or at least that's what I'm thinking. You'll see when we get to the next thing and I start talking about the actual timeline of the movie, like where does it fall in the timeline of the other 6 movies. And then this right here, we see Bumblebee in his new in his new vehicle mode, racing Cheetor. I will point out this is a race. They are not simply going off to somewhere. This is them trying to figure out who's the fastest. That is very important because if you look around at the scenery, this is very peaceful. There's no big explosions. There's nothing going on. This is just a race between the 2 of them to figure out who's the fastest. And I do believe this is probably going to be the ending sequence of the movie. With every single one of the movies, they always have this peaceful sequence wherein Optimus is monologuing. Something about peace, something about hope, something about how the humans have helped him, about winning the war. There's always some kind of monologue with Optimus Prime. So I got a feeling that monologue is going to happen over the top of this as we watch these 2 race off. Now, as far as the timeline of the movie, this is where it gets a little bit tricky. If you remember when I was talking about Optimus Prime and the style they are going with, it looks older. It does look like an older style truck. Older than his appearance in the 2007 movie and any of the movies going forward after that, with the exception of the rusted, beat-up truck that he was in Age of Extinction. We're going to ignore that because that was part of the movie plot. One of the key things I want to point out is in every single one of the movies, any of the characters that recur on the Autobot side, they get vehicle modes that are updated, like they're newer each year with the release of the movie. And that is very important because if you look at Bumblebee here, and I spent some time looking up this particular Camaro, this one is a 1971. Yeah, it is a 1971 Camaro. If you go back and you look at his first introduction in the 2007 film, the style of Camaro he is at the very beginning is a 1977. So we got a 71 and a 77. It is my belief that this entire movie happens between the events of Bumblebee and the 2000s 2007 Transformers movie. This is another prequel. It's a sequel to Bumblebee while a prequel to the Transformers 2007. Um, and that's simply based off of the style of vehicles that everybody seems to be assuming. And yeah, that is part of it. The other part about it is the Maximals' involvement does mean that there should be some time travel shenanigans going on. And this being a sequel to Bumblebee, the Maximals being involved in time travel stuff, this does suggest to me this happens before the 2007 movie. And I feel like that is the, and this is where we're going to get into theory. I feel like that is the conclusion we are supposed to come to. If you remember, I said there's 2 scenes in each one of the new trailers that repeats. And there's some scenes in the second trailer that I can't actually fit into this timeline. The sequence with the army men in the desert and Optimus Prime going through the giant machine. Now, I assume that's part of the ending sequence where they are able to bring back Bumblebee and finally confront and defeat Scourge. However, the fact of the matter is they have 2 scenes in each one of the trailers that they played twice. And that got me thinking, what if this entire timeline is actually something we're supposed to think of, and they're pulling a fast one on us? Because the Maximals are involved, this could be a little bit of a timeline thing. And what's actually going to happen is we are going to get some future, like stuff that happens after last night, but happens before Transformers. So we're gonna go back. So we're gonna be here. Let's see if I can get my hand up here. We're gonna be here. This is the current day, and there's gonna be some things that happen that remind Optimus of the past, and we're gonna go to the past, and that's where the movie takes place going forward. And Optimus is probably gonna have to deal with a fallout of whatever happened in that original sequence of events. And that is also why the Maximals are involved, because it is time travel based stuff that's going on. Like maybe Optimus used something that he shouldn't have, and with the help of the Maximals, he now has access to that in the current timeline. I don't. That portion's completely theory. As far as what I feel like the timeline of the movie is going to be, I do think that is most likely the order of events, although I will say some of those sequences may be out of order. I'm not exactly sure what is going to come first. I don't know if we're going to get Mirage being chased by the police first, or if we're going to get Bumblebee and Optimus taking on Scourge first, or if we're going to get Elena meeting RC first. As far as everything else, seems to be in a straight order, and then the same thing with Rhinox and Cheetor. I don't know if those are going to happen before or after we meet Primal. I'm on the assumption it's going to be after we meet Primal, as they are fighting a Teracon, so I'm guessing that the Autobots and Optimus Primal have not met up with those two just yet in order to stop the Terracons. But yeah, that is my breakdown of it, and I hope you guys enjoyed, and I can't wait to see the movie in June. Um, we'll see how much of that is actually right. I'd be very, very surprised if I've got that 70% correct, we'll say. I do want to say probably about 10% of that I don't know the actual order of, for the 100th time. Can't believe how many times I've said that. And then the rest of it is only, it's up to debate, because the idea that there is going to be some extra time travel shenanigans also going on seems possible, as some of these sequences seem too predictable. And that's why they've given us some scenes that don't fit that exact timeline of events. We'll see. I don't know as of right now, but yeah. I've been Natanis Likens, and I will see you guys next time. Goodbye.